Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, we are continuing with the study of the Bhagavad Gita, and we are in chapter number 15, verse number 17. I hope you all can see the verse. I have shared the screen, and if you can see it.
Yes, we can. Hare Krishna Gita.
Okay. So Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 15, verse number 17. It's in Sanskrit. Uttamaha purushasva anyaha paramatmeti udaharataha yo lokatrayam avishya vibharti avyaya ishvaraha. The word for word meaning. Uttamaha, the best. Purushaha, personality. Tu, but. Anyaha, another. Paramatma, the supreme self. Iti, thus. Udaharataha is said. Yaha, who. Loka, of the universe. Trayam, the three divisions. Avishya, entering. Vibharti, is maintaining. Avyayaha, inexhaustible. Ishvaraha, the Lord. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Besides these two, there is the greatest living personality, the Supreme Soul, the imperishable Lord Himself, who has entered the three worlds and is maintaining them. Purport. The idea of this verse is very nicely expressed in the Katha Upanishad and Shvetashvatara Upanishad. It is clearly stated there that above the innumerable living entities, some of whom are conditioned and some of whom are liberated, there is the Supreme Personality who is Paramatma. The Upanishadic verse runs as follows: Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam. The purport is that amongst all the living entities, both conditioned and liberated, there is one Supreme Personality, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who maintains them and gives them all the facility of enjoyment according to different work. That Supreme Personality of Godhead is situated in everyone's heart as a Paramatma. A wise man who can understand him is eligible to attain perfect peace, not others. Om Jnanatimrandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So first of all, welcome to all of you, and thank you for joining us today. And today's verse is very, very important. What does it say? It says, besides these two, that is fallible and infallible, right? There are two kinds of people we have learned last week, that one is fallible in this material world and the other is infallible in the spiritual world. Now, besides these two, this verse is telling us, Krishna is telling, that there is the greatest living personality. He's talking about himself, the Supreme Lord, who's also known as the Supreme Soul, and he's imperishable. And he has entered the three worlds and he's maintaining them. Now, Supreme Lord is also called God. If you look up the dictionary meaning of God, it is singular. It's just one person, which means it says God means someone who has no one equal to him or above him. He is the greatest. That's why he's called God. So he's talking about God. Now, Bhagavad Gita, we all know, was spoken by Krishna, who is addressed as the Supreme Lord, as God. So those of us who don't have enough knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita or hearing Bhagavad Gita for the first time, let us at least theoretically accept that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, because Bhagavad Gita, it says, was spoken by Krishna, and Krishna is addressed as the Supreme Lord. Now, why is Krishna called the Supreme Lord? Then we have to go back to the Vedic scriptures and get the references from there, which state that Krishna is God. And the very first created being, according to the Vedas, the first created being is Lord Brahma. And he has written beautiful prayers, and he gives a reference: Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. He says that Krishna is the Maha Ishvara, which means he is the Supreme Lord. Now, even in the summary of the Vedas, which is called the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a beautiful verse where it says, Ete chamsa kalapumsa, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Krishna, you yourself are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So from different scriptures, we get references that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. In fact, in the Bhagavad Gita, it says, Bhoktaram Yagna Tapasam Sarva Loka Maheshwara. Maheshwara means Maha Ishvara, which means Lord of all. So let us at least theoretically accept that, okay, Krishna is the Supreme Lord. And then we can go further on that. So one of the 5 topics of the Bhagavad Gita is about us, the spirit soul. Actually, when we say us, we always refer to our body. But the chapter 2 of the Bhagavad Gita gives very good kind of a basic foundation of the spiritual knowledge, and that is that we are not this body, but we are the spirit soul. Now, if we are the spirit soul, then it's important that we know what a spirit soul is. And the second chapter explains the different qualities of the spirit soul. First of all, Krishna tells us that the supreme, not the supreme, the spirit soul is eternal. Na jayate mriyate va kadachit. Najayate mriyate. That means the soul is eternal. There is no birth for the soul, and there is no death for the soul. And secondly, Krishna tells us that the spirit soul is a part of the Supreme Lord. Mamai Vamsha Jivaloke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. Sanatana means eternal. So we are amshas, parts of the Supreme Lord. And because the Lord is eternal, we are also eternal. So he explains in the Bhagavad Gita that we are eternal spirit souls, but we have accepted this material body as a covering. Just like I'm wearing a garment to cover the body, similarly, this body is a covering for the spirit soul. And inside this material body, besides the soul, there is also a subtle body. And subtle body comprises of mind, intelligence, and false ego. So that is the subtle body. And the scriptures, the Vedic scriptures, indicate to us where do we reside. And it says we reside in the heart. That is why the heart is considered to be the most important organ in the body, because the consciousness, the life is residing in the heart. And along, so there is this material body, then we have the subtle body of mind, intelligence, false ego. And this subtle body is situated in the heart along with the spirit soul and the supreme soul that he's talking about in this verse that we recited today. That the Supreme Lord has entered into our hearts, into the hearts of each and every living entity. That means in the heart of the animals and the birds and the insects, and of course the human beings. So he is there within the heart as the supreme soul. Now, talking about the spirit soul that we actually are, it is very minute. It is so minute that we cannot see it with our material eyes. It's not possible. Even with very powerful instruments like the microscope or whatever it may be, it's not possible to see the soul, because according to the scriptures, the size of the soul is 1 10,000th of the tip of the hair. It is so very tiny. So, but then how do we know if we cannot see the soul? How do we know it exists? The symptom is consciousness. That is the difference between a dead body and a living body. That living body is conscious because the soul is inside that body. So, understanding that we are the spirit soul is the first step to learning the Bhagavad Gita. Only when we understand who we really are, that we can make further progress on the spiritual path. Now, let me demonstrate to you the difference between the body and the soul. Now, you may say that, show me your eyes, I will show the ears, the nose, the arm, and then you say, show me yourself. So I will do like this, point towards the heart. But then this is the chest. This is not the soul, right? So how do we know that we are just identifying with the body that we can see? But what about the spirit soul, which is within the body? So that is the difference. So when supposing a person dies, and then we, the loved ones are, very sad, and they are crying, and they say he or she is gone. But the body is still there. So why do we say he or she is gone? That means subconsciously we know that there was something within the body that has left the body, and that's why this body is no longer conscious, right? So body is still there, but we know that person is gone. That means the spirit soul has left the body and gone. So that this is how we understand the difference between body and soul. I can give you some examples, like supposing I'm at the beach and I see someone drowning, and then, out of compassion, I swim there to save that person, and I come back with just the shirt. Have I saved the person? No, I've just saved the shirt. The person is still there. So there's a difference between the shirt and that body. So similarly, there's a difference between the body, that is the covering of the soul. Another example we can think about is, say, supposing there is a cage, a beautiful golden cage, and there is a bird inside that cage. There's a difference between the cage and the bird. Now, if I just polish the cage, let it shine beautiful, gold, very, very nice, and I forget to feed the bird, then what is going to happen? The bird is going to become very weak. So, similarly, it is important to feed the body, but we need to feed the soul also, the soul which is situated in the heart, according to the Bhagavad Gita. And what is the food for the soul? It is this knowledge of the Vedas. This Vedic, ancient Vedic scripture very nicely gives us knowledge about who we really are, where have we come from, and what is the purpose of our being in this material world, and how we can come out of this material world and go to our spiritual home, eternal home, where there is permanent happiness, right? So until and unless we understand who we are, like the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, Krishna, in Sanskrit, he says, Vasamsi jirnani yatha vihaya. He says that as a person changes garments when they become old and useless, similarly, the soul changes the body when the body becomes old and useless, right? Now, it is the body that grows, that we can see. Now, what I looked like when I was 5 years old, obviously I don't look like that right now because my body has grown, but the soul remains the same. It is eternal, it remains the same. So, why the important point is that when the body is growing, we are very conscious of the body growing, but unfortunately most of us, we forget about the soul, the eternal soul which is in the body. Krishna says in chapter 2, dehi no asmin yatha dehe Kaumaram Yauvanam Jara Tatha Dehantara Praptir Dhiras Tatrana Muhyati. The translation is as the embodied soul. He's using the word embodied because right now we are inside. The soul is inside the body. It is bound up by the body. It is not separate. It is inside. So as the embodied soul continuously passes from boyhood to youth to old age, similarly at death the soul goes on to the next body. And he says dhiras, that means a sober person is not bewildered by such a change, right? Do we get bewildered when our body starts growing? No, because we know this is how the body grows. So the wise people, the intelligent people, they try to understand the difference between the body and the soul, and so they do not lament. So when someone leaves the body, we understand that it is the soul that has gone on to the next body. So this verse that we took today is also talking about the supreme soul, right? The supreme soul in Sanskrit is also known as Paramatma, the super soul, also. That is the supreme Lord. So the supreme Lord, out of his causeless mercy, he enters into the hearts of each living entity, which means animals, birds, insects, reptiles, all living entities, including us human beings. So the Lord is situated in the heart as the supreme soul. Now, the question may arise, what is he doing over there? Why is he inside our hearts? Well, according to today's verse, he is there to maintain us. He is there to witness our activities. What are we doing? Are we doing good activities or bad activities? The Lord has a supercomputer that records everything. We may think, I am alone in my house, there is no one to watch me, and I can do whatever. But the Lord within the heart is recording every activity of ours. So he is there as a witness, and he's also there to help us and guide us, to maintain us, and also to sanction our activities. We may think that I can do whatever I want, but no, without the sanction of the Supreme Lord, we cannot do anything. In fact, just like the Vedas, there are also Puranas and also Upanishads. And in the Upanishads also there is reference about the Supreme Soul. And today's purport that we were reading by Srila Prabhupada, the Sanskrit scholar who has translated, he quotes from the Upanishads. He says, Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam. That the Supreme Lord is eternal and he is the one who's maintaining us. And based on our actions, he gives us a facility to enjoy or suffer. If we commit sinful activities, obviously we will suffer. If we do good activities, we are going to enjoy. So he is impartial like a judge. Now, when supposing I have done something wrong and I'm asked to appear in the court, and there is the the judge is going to, get all the information necessary, the witness, whatever it is, or proof. And then based on that, the judge is going to award me a reward or a punishment. So does that mean that the judge hates me if he punishes me, or the judge is partial? No, he is just a witness. He sees the proof and he awards whatever we deserve. So similarly, that is what the Supreme Lord does. So we have, if we those of you who have joined recently, we are in chapter 15. But of course, once we finish chapter 18, we will go back to the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita and start learning the basic foundation. And in chapter 2, which is called the summary of the Bhagavad Gita, right? The whole summary of 18 chapters is there in chapter 2, where we will learn that how we should live a life of a human being. Just like when we buy gadgets, we get owner's manual. Similarly, when we have this human body, the Lord has given us an owner's manual, which is the Bhagavad Gita, where he explains to us how to use this body. Now, one may say, I know how to use my body. You don't have to teach me. No, the subtle nature. We need to understand the difference between this body that I have and the soul which is within the body, which is eternal, which is never going to die. It has always existed and it will always exist. It's going to change from one body to another. Now, the question is, should we want to have another body? Are we done with the bodies, material bodies? Do we want to go to a place, the supreme planet, the spiritual planet, where there is no birth, no disease, no old age, no death, no miseries caused by material nature, miseries caused by body and mind, miseries caused by other living entities? If we want to get rid of all the miseries, then the process is how to go back to the spiritual world. Now, just like if I am invited to someone's house and I've never been there, so, how do I get there? I'm going to use GPS, right? And the GPS is the first question will be, where are you, right? And the next question will be, where do you want to go? Based on that input, the GPS is going to show the way. Okay, now you take this highway or take this road or whatever it is going to guide us to our destination. Similarly, this Bhagavad Gita is the GPS for us in this material world, in this material body. And this GPS, first of all, wants to know, where are you? I am in this material world. Where do you want to go? Well, I want to go to the spiritual world, where I will have a spiritual body which is not going to die, which is not going to grow old or get diseased, and it's not going to be born again and again. And I want to be permanently happy, and I want to be peaceful, right? Everyone is looking for happiness and peace in this world. And if we are looking, that means we don't have it right now, and that is why we are looking for it. So the Bhagavad Gita guides us. In fact, when we go to chapter 5 of this beautiful book, the Supreme Lord Krishna explains to Arjuna, his friend, to whom he is talking this Bhagavad Gita to. He says, he gives a peace formula, right? A beautiful peace formula where he says that Bhoktaram Yagna Tapasam Sarva Loka Maheshwara Suridam Sarva Bhutanam Gnatva Mam Shantim Richati. Shanti means peace. And that is a peace formula in verse number 29 of chapter 5. What does it mean? The Lord says that if anyone can understand that I am the Supreme Lord, I am the controller, I am the enjoyer, and if one worships me and follows my instructions, one will be very peaceful. It's a very simple formula, right? In this world, we have tried to be controllers, and I'm not sure about all of you, but most of the time we fail, right? We want to control the spouse, we want to control the children, we want to control our colleagues, we want to control our friends and relatives. And I mean, that is inherent in us. I want to be the controller. But unfortunately, the Vedas tell us, Jivera Swarup Hoy Krishnara Nityadas. Our eternal inherent position is to be the servant of the Supreme Lord. And here Bhagavad Gita talks about Krishna as the Supreme Lord. So gradually we learn that we are the spirit soul and we are blissful by nature. But because we have this material body, we are right now conditioned. And in chapter 3 of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Yagnarthat karmanonyatra lokoyam karma bandhanaha. He says that when work is not performed for the satisfaction of the Lord, we get into bondage. And when we go to when we, go through the whole Bhagavad Gita and come to chapter 14, it's about the three modes of material nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. So, what happens? We are working under these three modes of the nature: goodness, passion, or ignorance. Sometimes it's mixed modes, but the point is how to go beyond these three modes of material nature, how to perform our activities in such a way that we do not get any more reactions. And that is what we covered last Tuesday about actions and reactions. So today's verse is talking about the spirit soul, that who we really are, and the supreme soul, that is the Lord within the heart, residing with us along with the subtle body, which is the mind, intelligence, and false ego. And what is the purpose of the supreme Lord to be situated in the heart along the spirit soul, us, that is us, real us? The purpose is so that the supreme Lord can guide us, can help us, can also show us the way. Now those of us who are interested in self realization, interested in hearing about who we really are, this Bhagavad Gita is the best book to learn from. And every Tuesday we have these classes where we go verse by verse, we chant the Sanskrit verse, and Srila Prabhupada has very nicely translated from Sanskrit to English, so we don't have to really learn Sanskrit. And then he has given us the translation and the purport to explain to us what is it the Supreme Lord is talking about. So there are 5 subject matters of the Bhagavad Gita, and today we kind of touched about on 2 subject matters. One is the spirit soul, and the other is who is God, the Supreme Lord, these 2 topics. And then, of course, last Tuesday and before that, we covered a little bit about karma. How does the karma work? How many kinds of karmas are there? And how to come out of the cycle of this, karmic reaction. So that is what we learned. And there are 2 more subjects of the Bhagavad Gita. So we did soul, spirit soul, the Supreme Lord, karma. Then there is material nature. How does this material nature work? How does it affect us? And how to remain unaffected? Right? See, right now, the world is going through a very difficult time since I think past 1.5 years, and people are still struggling. Many have lost their lives, many have lost their material bodies, and many are still struggling. They are fighting this virus. So this is how the material nature works. Recently, we heard in India there was the cyclone, the hurricane or cyclone, whatever you call it, and created havoc. There was so much damage, so many people were hurt and lost their lives. So this is how material nature works. Sometimes it's very peaceful, and sometimes there are floods, cyclones, hurricanes, tsunami, earthquakes, all different. And the last subject matter of Bhagavad Gita is eternal time. You know, the way time works. You see, we started this class at 7 p.m. Can we go back to 7 p.m. on 25th of May, 2021? We cannot go back. We cannot even go back 1 second. We cannot go back even 1 second. This is how time works. So it's very important that now that we have a human form of life, where we have philosophical intelligence to understand the difference between this body and the spirit soul, to understand that there are miseries in this material world, to understand that I am spiritual by nature, and the goal of my life should be to get a spiritual body which does not deteriorate, which does not get disease, which does not die, and go to my original home, which is the spiritual world. So this is how Bhagavad Gita gradually teaches us, like, in the first grade, the children, they are taught 2 plus 2 equals 4. And then gradually, as they go on to high school, then they learn, calculus, algebra, or whatever, which is higher level. So similarly, Bhagavad Gita also, when we start from the beginning, from chapter 1 onwards, gradually go on. When we come to the 18th chapter, which is the last chapter of this book on self-realization, it gives us the summary again of everything that we have learned from chapter 1 onwards till chapter number 17. So 18 is again the summary of the whole Bhagavad Gita. And I really appreciate all of you, joining and trying to learn the Bhagavad Gita, in a very systematic way, and really appreciate that. And I hope you will be able to join, on a regular basis. We have this every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I'm going to do a little bit of mantra meditation just for a few minutes to kind of absorb what we have heard today. Okay. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravana Chari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So I'm going to end here. If anyone has any questions or have any comments, please go ahead.